So this is kind of the next wave of gods.
Yep.
From here, we'll see, we'll reassess, we'll keep going, right? But this is what we're thinking. This is what we're going to be bringing over the next wave. Most of these gods are already in progress or somewhat playable. I played Cerberus in a playtest the other day. I've played Guan Yu. I've not played Kali or Apollo. I don't know how they're doing.
Okay.
But yeah, it's been a good process bringing these gods into the game. Feeling pretty strong about them. And yeah, that's kind of the overview of the schedule.
It's a good lineup.
Yeah, I think it's a really good lineup. I think the hard part about this show is that every person has a favorite god, right? And everybody wants their god to be the next
Free
god.
Jean Kui.
Yeah. Free Jean. Dude, there are definitely Jean Kui enjoyers here. Yeah, maybe a typo on Apollo's date. I think that should be May 19th and not May 9th. So apologies. We'll get that updated. We've got Bari. Princess Bari. I gotta get my head into the world of calling her Princess Bari.
Yeah.
And because even in the God select screen, she's alphabetized under P instead of B for princess, right?
Yeah.
So I gotta get my Princess Bari going here. But yeah, Princess Bari. Tell us a little bit about making her and the model and all this.
Yeah, so the big thing with each of these gods, especially when you're doing a new pantheon and stuff, the research, making sure you're being culturally accurate and on brand for things. So it was interesting to kind of look into Korean culture and how they did their deities and stuff like that, and making sure that the shapes, there's a lot of swirly stuff in the shapes and all that. Making sure we just kind of landed those. The hat was a very interesting thing because when I look at that, I'm her hat looks a little tall, man.
Yeah.
And I was I kind of want to make it smaller. And I remember we had a really good concept artist, Danny Pack, worked on it. And he's Korean. So he was really on brand. He was probably talking to the family. Are we on point with this? Does it feel accurate? But he was you cannot change that hat size. I think Jen Kim also was talking
Jen Kim was talking about
it. She was
no,
that
she's
hat,
that is iconically Korean.
Yeah, exactly. So we try to make sure that we stayed true to a lot of those things. But we also try to make it interesting, so we did a lot of pops of color with her. Her personality is she's I think in the lore, she was the seventh daughter to a royal family, king and queen.
Yeah.
And they because she wasn't a boy, they were all right, you know what, we're just gonna abandon you. It was
pretty
terrible,
much,
right?
yeah, the abandoned princess, right?
Yeah, right. And so eventually, on their deathbed, they kind of needed. Oh, she wanted to help them, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So she went to the underworld to get or the spirit world to get this life-saving water. It's a whole cool story, but
it is.
Her personality, she's a very kind of caring person, very compassionate, and we felt we wanted to make her more vibrant with colors and stuff like that. So yeah, she has these really cool bells too. They're I thought that would be something you would hit someone with, but it's just a cool thing for throwing kind of magic out there. I like it, man. It's a cool design.
Yeah, she teasers for Monday. She is a carry.
Okay.
The bells play a big role in her kit actually, and you talked about the saving water.
Yeah.
That also kind of plays a little bit of a role
right.
in her kit. So she's very interesting. Does a lot of new unique tech for the game, and excited to have Pawn talk a little bit more about it. A classic god, bringing those over. They all have their own challenges.
Right.
As a more humanoid, fabric-y kind of character who. I think probably more of the challenge on him is the FX, but I'm sure there was some interesting stuff that came up on the model as well.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things with these guys. If we feel like the god looked pretty good in Smite 1, we want to honor how that looked for Smite 2, and then if we have obviously some fans clamoring for certain updates in certain areas, we'll try to accommodate, right? But we thought Merlin was pretty spot on from day one. So on the model side, we really just kind of did more of the conversion where it's we're adding the PBR materials and just making sure it's up to specs for Unreal 5. So he's just kind of like the Merlin you know and love with just a fresh coat of paint, really.
Yeah, and he is he's maybe a little bit more blue than he used to be.
Yeah. Well, so with that stuff, it really a lot of that stuff is the material is just read in a certain way, right? So with the blueness, it's why not pop them a little bit? Right?
Yeah.
I think one of the things too with Smite 2 is we're trying to you can see it with the UI and a couple of other elements where we're trying to get a little more. I wouldn't say modernized, but just kind of more there's an appeal thing. I think some of the stuff in Smite 1 kind of felt maybe a little older or like muted or like not as vibrant as it could be in certain areas. So like opportunities where there's like the guy's got blue on him, like we're gonna try to maybe push that a little bit more, right? But usually it's with like kind of materials. So like I think the reason why I feel is the most blue is because like his cloth has more of like a sheen to it, like a satiny kind of vibe, versus maybe just like cloth. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
Lots of blue though.
Lots of blue. No, and obviously still got all the stances. Like from a, is it just like 3 times the work to bring him over with the three different animations, different FX,
So with his abilities, he also has like different types, right? So like with him, there's different disciplines on the art section. There's like 7 or so of them. So with the modeling, with the concept side, you have to obviously do all the whole like shebang, right? Like all the character, then his abilities and how those for effects could look to help them out. But like on the modeling side, like you just do the model, and then there's like the I think the fire stance where he has the 2 dragons. Like that's an actual asset that costs a lot, right? And then the effects team is the ones that get the most brunt of the work, because every single time you do an effects pass, each ability is like unique for him based on his stance. So that's 4 abilities, or 3, because the 4th is the switch, right? So like it's 3 abilities 3 times, right? So like that's 9. It's basically 3 gods worth of work for the effects team.
Yeah.
So it is absolutely a lot for them.
He looks a little bit more doggy, I feel.
Yeah. So I did the original Cerberus way back in the day, and when I did that, the concept art had a more like, basically he's the same from the back end, but the face. I always when you make art, you're always like kind of like regretting things, Like,
that's just
like,
life. You always wish you would have done things
like
a little bit
5 years
differently.
ago, I wish I had done this, right?
Yeah.
So like, looking at his face, he had like a very boxy snout, and it felt almost like less like a dog, more like a monster, but like not in an appealing way. It felt weird. It was like unbalanced. Like to me, like the top. Again, I'm gonna talk art speak, so like maybe it looks fine to everybody, right? But to me, I'm like the balance of his like upper head and then like the snout just felt like this was like 1.7 what it should be, or like 1.5 maybe, versus what the head's relationship should be. So I made sure to go in and kind of move the nose around. And when I was talking about the technical stuff earlier, the reason why I know so much about that is because I actually was like, I just did this real early. I did the face changes a long time ago because I didn't want to bother the rigging department, because they'll be like, look, we're underwater too. Like we do a lot of art over here, right? Yep. So like we have to like wear a lot of hats. So I didn't want to bother them. So I just like did the whole conversion of the face myself. So but like his face, it's more of like, it's not like a Doberman, but like it's like we have to have a longer snout, so it's just a little bit leaner. It feels more dog-like. You might not be able to see it as much from this angle, but you'll feel it in game.
It is Kali, and she got a bit of a glow up here.
Okay.
This is a bigger one.
Yeah. So there was a lot of people that felt so Kali existed a long time ago, and she was a lot more sensational looking, I will say. And then some people were like, that's too much, so we gave her like kind of some battle armor. We like just made her feel more like, ready for offense.
Yeah.
And people then also said that was maybe too much the other way, right?
Yes.
They're like, we went too crazy one way, and then on the armor, she feels too armored up. She had like, battle heels and stuff like that, right? I thought it looked cool, but a lot of people were like, culturally, that feels like just too far from like a lot of the reference. So with this one, we were like, okay, well, let's kind of get a mid ground. So we like kept a lot of the armor that we felt pretty good for like the arms and the shins.
And chat, there are 4 arms. They're just stacked in front of each other.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
So yeah, she still has 4 arms. Don't worry.
If you look on the left side, you can see the fingers. That's not an AI art thing over there. The extra fingers. That's actually like the model.
This is like the T pose, right?
T-pose.
And you pose the arms just kind of out at the same angle. So when you were looking straight on, it looks like she has 2 arms, but she still has 4. Don't worry.
I had the lead character artist did some renders where she was in pose. I probably should have offered those too, but I felt like these are easier to kind of display like the changes we made, right? So anyways, we took off some of the battle armor on the stomach area, and then we got rid of the heels. So we try to keep it more kind of a middle ground between the two. And then I saw a lot of people online talking about like she should have a tongue, and she should have like this incense thing, and she should have like this garland thing, and I was like, okay, well, let me look into these things, right? And so I wanted to make sure that, the tongue, to me, it's like that's a whole extra bit of work, because then you have to get animation and the rigging, and it's just so much more. So I was like, bang for your buck. It's like, I don't know if it's worth bringing it back. We might try to like see if we can kind of like find a tech way to bring it in during her ult or something that feels appropriate. That might be cool, but like by and large, we didn't want to just have that be the thing that's always available. But I was like, the Garland, like I was reading into that. It's like she has, in the lore, it's like a 42 head Garland or something like that.
It's a lot of heads.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't, poly count wise, one, that's too much. And then also like scale wise, if you had like that many heads along a thing, it's like, it's just going to feel weird. So I was like, we'll just do some skulls, right? And then we'll do like a certain amount.
Did Chuck tell you to put skulls on her?
I was summoning my inner Chuck when I put those on there, right? I knew it was like force ghosting right next to me saying like skulls, right? But anyways, so we try to add that kind of Garland vibe, but like also make it appealing. She's goddess of death, so I was like, I think skulls felt okay, right? It's a kind of a good middle ground.
Oh, Guan Yu's horse. I put the horse first. I'm sorry. I put this in the wrong order.
This one, we basically stole the armor from old Guan Yu horse and then made a new Guan Yu horse with that kind of armor, right? So again, you won't notice that it's like anything different. It just feels like a war horse. But if you saw the old horse and you put it next to this horse, that old horse looked like it like swallowed some mutagen or something like that. Like it definitely, the secret of the ooze was upon that thing. It was really just, it was an older model. It was like, it just needed an update, I think.
Chat sees it. Somebody said it's a horse and not a blob.
I mean, like the art style of Smite has changed over the years, right? And so like that was kind of one of the biggest things. I love Guan Yu himself. Like he's actually pretty stylized still, but like I don't know. He looks like a warrior dude, right? Like he looks like he can come toe to toe with like other deities. So like the horse just was one where it got super buffed too, and it was like just too stylized feeling, right?
This is a funny question that you can answer as however you wish.
Okay.
Tell us about Guan.
Yeah. So like it's the same thing. He had a great design. I think one of the things we might try to do, I don't know how far we can go with it, because again, we said we have to like lock in the animations and stuff like that. But like his hands are a little big, and so like
I never noticed that. It's kind of like Realm Royale characters.
Yes. Well, the thing you're gonna notice the most is when he's like grabbing his beard and kind of stroking it. It's like you see that giant, like he can grab his own head with his hand kind of thing. So that was kind of like, because we were a little more stylized back in the day, but it is locked into a lot of the animation. So we're going to try to see what we can do to maybe kind of like make them just a little bit less, maybe the head might get a touch bigger. But overall, like this is pretty much what we're going to work with. We just, try to port it pretty well and make sure that it stayed. There wasn't a lot that needed to be changed in this guy. I think he's a really cool looking god. I've always I know he's not like, he's like a Dynasty Warrior dude, right? It's like there's no like crazy.
I think there literally is a Guan Yu in Dynasty Warrior.
Yeah. Like he has a certain look that you have to keep. If you're doing Guan Yu, we just do our own version of Guan Yu. It's not going to land, right?
Yeah.
So like he's one of those ones where like his design's kind of like traditional.
Yeah.
But like it's just cool, man. Like I really always liked him a lot. So I didn't want us to change much of anything on this guy except just getting some really nice pops in the materials and like getting the green to feel good versus the gold and stuff.
He's looking real good.
I did the OG Apollo back in the day.
The classic.
Yeah. And again, it was back in the stylized era that we were kind of working on. And it's one of those ones you always look at, you're like, oh my God, the shame I have brought to my house, like with this model. And so along, probably about like, I don't know, it was maybe 2019 or there was a couple years back. Wow, a couple years. It's like 2025.
Dude, time flies, man.
COVID has messed my brain up, dude.
Completely. Like, and also just like the older you get, like the
it all
like,
blends.
Oh, that was a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I was talking with my wife about like, oh yeah, this happened a couple years ago. She worked at Hi-Res a while ago.
That was 8 years ago.
And it was like, no, that was like 8 years ago.
Yeah. So this got an update in Smite 1 to feel again more kind of like along the style of the rest of the characters. And we just wanted to make sure we brought that over. We tried a couple of things that we wanted to like see if it was worth updating with him, like his hair and stuff. We were like, should we make changes? But like we just felt after like going down that path that this version that was pretty much how it feels in Smite 1 just felt good, right?
Yeah.
So, we're just kind of like bringing him in and making sure like all the golds read and stuff. He's going to have his alt, like the horse and the chariot and stuff. So yeah, it's pretty much the same vibe from the Smite 1 update.
Yeah. I think he looks solid though. Like, I don't know. I feel like these kind of humanoid characters with a lot of skin showing, like really kind of show the material upgrade, right? Because he always felt like I don't mean he felt like a toy, but kind of plasticky in Smite 1.
So in Smite 1, like I'll get a little more nerdy again. Like you have like limitations on materials and stuff like that, and like there's things like there's subsurface scattering is the thing where basically if you put your like finger or your ear up to a light and like you can see the light going through, but it like makes your finger look like the ET finger.
Yeah.
It's like super glowy and kind of like red, but like white, yellow on the inside kind of thing. Like that is all how light refracts inside of a subsurface scattering inside the surface scattering about, right? So because that area of your like fingers, for instance, the fingertips are like less dense than kind of other areas, it allows light to pass through.